Wondering how your mindset affects your life? How to bring more energy into your business and life? Millions of people around the world ask these same questions daily. You are in the right place. Learn practices that will help give your life the meaning and success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Charge Podcast, teaching you how to create habits around real goals every day. Practical life advice from those who made it. Here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Welcome to the month of February, the shortest month of the year, but for some of you, it may seem like the longest month of the year. Remember the goals you set for yourself at the beginning of the year? Are you still committed to achieving them like you were on January 1st? Well, let's recommit. If you fell off your exercise routine, or maybe saying eating healthier, or working on a passion project, remember, goals are like having your headlights on because you have to take action to accomplish them. We are sharing in the month of February some great guests on the Charge Podcast. Our guests this month share their expertise on how to implement habits to achieve your goals. Learn how to network to make lasting relationships, strategies to create your perfect career, and why character is so important to living your best life. If you are feeling frustrated and stressed out with your professional and personal life, I know in each of these podcasts, the strategies that each guest shares can propel you to live a charged life in 2021. Chargers are committed to finding how each day they can make their life better by the willingness to learn, grow, and become the person they were meant to be. In my recently published book, Cultivate Positive Culture, 10 Actions to Faithful Living, I shared this quote: "Life is not about living in mediocrity. Life is about living into our future self." You made a great choice in listening to this podcast. Remember, the podcast is named Charge after my mantra: create habits around real goals every day. Let's get recharged in this podcast to influence a positive culture so you can take simple positive actions each day. Are you ready? Welcome, Chargers. We're glad to have you back this week for another great podcast. I love sharing different viewpoints and different guests that really make us think. And really, it comes from thinking, and then it's about taking action, as you know. That allows us to achieve what we want to achieve. And since it's early in 2021, what are you trying to achieve this week? What are you trying to achieve this month? What are you trying to achieve this year? That is what I want you to get out of the conversation that we have today, because I've got Pete Paciorek. He is a youth coach and mentor. He is married to his high school sweetheart and has 3 young children, a former professional baseball player from a family of 10 pro athletes. Pete uses the vehicle of sport to bring out the innate positive character in our youth and teens. His nonprofit and book are called Character Loves Company. He is pursuing a doctoral degree in Character Education and Citizenship at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. He works at Principia School in St. Louis, where he is the Director of School Advancement and Community Outreach, as well as the head baseball coach. Previously, Pete has been a college director of athletics and a college head baseball coach, and the head coach and instructor at IMG Academy for baseball. Pete is passionate about Special Olympics and supporting Special Olympic athletes like my good buddy, Daxton Miller. Last year, he hired Daxton to be an assistant baseball coach with him at Principia School. Pete, it is great to have you on the Charge Podcast. Welcome.
Gary, thank you so much. I'm honored to be on with you today.
Well, it is great to have you. We've got several things in mind, and we're definitely going to talk about our buddy Daxton, because you said it in your bio, but I feel like he's a buddy of mine too, because once you get to know Daxton, everybody becomes his buddy.
You're exactly right. Daxton is just filled with joy, and every opportunity I get to be around him, it just makes me a better person. I love him.
Yeah. Let's start out with, I always ask every guest this question because it's what the name of the podcast is, Charge. Create habits around real goals every day. What habit or habits do you think has led to success in your life, Pete?
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate that question. Really, I think it's gratitude. I wake up every morning and I'm just excited for the day. I'm a Christian. I'm excited for the blessings that God has given me. And the opportunity is really a word that's important for me, is the word impact. And a hero of mine was Jackie Robinson. And the quote of his is, and I have it here on my desk, is a life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. And I really try to live by that.
Wow, that's a great quote. I love that. And Pete, I tell you, there's multiple ways we can go with this, but I think I want to start with, if you don't mind, of sharing a little bit of your story. We talked about what you're doing now, but you've been a pro athlete, and we all started somewhere as a kid, and then we've kind of grew up, and we don't have time to go through the whole. But share us the highlights there, or the things that really resonates with you that's made you the person that you are today.
For sure. Yeah. I had a chance to play professional baseball in the Dodgers organization and the San Diego Padres organization for close to 10 years. And as you mentioned in the intro, I come from a family of 10 professional athletes. So being around sports has always been something that's been part of my family, and character has always been a part of that. It's never been win at all costs. It's been learning life skills through the vehicle of sport. And I'm working now at a high school, and I just love it. I had originally thought after my professional career, I wanted to be a Division I head coach, or I wanted to be a major league general manager. And who knows, that might still happen down the road. But I love working with youth. I love working with high school and middle school age kids. And it just is really, it's a rewarding age to work with.
Yeah. And I'm curious on that. What do you think, I'm going to kind of tie it down, what really ties it down that you think really high school and kind of that middle school age is what you truly, and you found out kind of your passion, your love?
You know, I think it's those are such formidable years. And I think back to my life, where I was fortunate to have my dad was my coach quite a bit growing up, but then other just terrific coaches, terrific teachers. And that's that age, you know, middle school, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, where kids can veer off in the wrong direction, or they get a strong mentor or coach, or, you know, just friend, a good peer group where they can stay on the right track and head in the right direction. So I feel like it's a sweet spot for me. And, you know, some people steer away from the middle school age, those teenage years, but I like it. I like to take on that challenge and have real conversations and help them grow in their character.
Well, first off, thank you for doing that, because that to me is a truly time that you really make an impact. I speak sometime to educators, and I think it fits educators, it fits coaches too, and one of the quotes I've come up with is, you inspire your students for a lifetime, is what someone at that age does. And I know most of us that have went through that, we have that coach or that educator that really has made that difference in their life.
You're absolutely right, Gary. And you remember their name. I mean, it's 30 plus years ago. And I still remember my 7th grade English teacher who inspired me. And you know, I would have never thought I would have written a book and that I've been working on a doctoral program, because I wasn't a great student growing up, but just having those teachers that would inspire you and help you break through limitations. And you remember their names, and the words they say are important.
Yeah. I had one of mine. It's kind of interesting. Yours was an English teacher. Mine was a high school freshman English teacher. And I'm sure the first time she heard I was writing a book, she said, "Your grammar is not that great." So I did the next best thing, Pete. I had her edit my book.
Oh, that's I should have done that.
And she's actually edited all 4 of my books. She said thinks she's ready for the retirement now again, but she says but it's funny. We just got done with the 4th one last year, in the last fall. And she said, "Well, you let me know if you get another one. I may consider doing it again." So
that's awesome. That's a great idea. My English teacher that I was talking about, she actually cried when she found out that I wrote a book. I sent her a copy of it. She could not believe it, because I was, you know, I hate to admit this, but I graduated from high school in the bottom 25% of my class. But I just wasn't applying myself like I knew I could. And I've had, you know, motivational teachers and coaches that have helped me break through, like I said.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that's so important is, and really kind of your foundation is with this character side of it. So where did the concept or the ideal come from, Character Loves Company, and why is that kind of the burning desire for you?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. I don't get that all that often, but it comes from the idea of misery loves company. You know how that idea that people that are miserable like to hang out together?
Yes.
Well, I was talking to the chair of the sport management program at University of Florida a couple years back when I was working on a master's there and writing this book. And we were talking about that concept. And he said, "I love that idea of character loves company. You want to surround yourself by people of high character, because it brings out the best in you, it brings out the best in them, and it raises the bar." So with my nonprofit, it's small, but we like to say it's small but mighty. The chairman of our nonprofit is Fred Clare, who was the general manager for the Los Angeles Dodgers when they won their previous World Series back in 1988. Bill Schumard, who just retired as the former CEO of the Special Olympics Southern California, who's just a wonderful, wonderful mentor of mine. And he's done remarkable work with the Special Olympics out there in Southern California. He's on the board, and just wonderful people on our board. And it's about surrounding yourself by other people that are going to hold you accountable and raise your character at the same time you try to do the same with them.
Well, it's kind of interesting, Pete, because with some of the research and some of the reading I've done, they talk about the 5 people that you surround yourself. And they talk about this more on the professional side. I don't link so much with students that they do, but they say that's who you become, more alike. And so you have to choose who those are. Well, that makes sense now if we're talking about students. If they surround themselves around others with good character, it brings the level up for everyone.
You're absolutely right. It raises that bar. And, mentoring is a big, important concept for me. And when I talk with coaches and parents across the country who are interested in sports, talk about modeling, role modeling, mentoring, and coaches, a lot of times, aside from parents, coaches can have the greatest impact because they're around these young children, young youth for a long time. And, during a long season, a baseball season, let's say, and they can have such a great impact, but a lot of coaches don't understand that. And it's really, they get caught up in winning at all costs instead of how can I use sport as a vehicle to teach character?
Yeah, I know just for myself, my high school football coach, my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, I still think of him. One of my books, I called it Coach Davis. His last name was Coach Davies. And it was for him basically that I modeled that position around that because of what I thought of him and how that is played through in my life. So it's so important there. Let's go another route because I think it fits with character because we both love Special Olympics and we found that there's a mutual. That's how we've got acquainted with each other in Special Olympics. What do you see from the athletes when you're around them of Special Olympic athletes that really just resonates with you?
So before I answer that, I do want to say our mutual acquaintance, our friend is Susan Stegman from the Special Olympics, Missouri, SOMO, and Susan and Trish Lutz and so many others, Jocelyn Deal, and so many others that I've interacted with here in Missouri are just wonderful. I mean, they're hearts of gold. And I think it's just one of the purest organizations there. It is. I think in the world of sports, Special Olympics is what's really pure about sports. And I love being around Daxton. Another individual, Lucy Meyer, who's out in Southern California, she came and gave a talk to our entire school at Principia School here in Missouri, in St. Louis, and to all 4 levels from the lower early learning center, pre-K, all the way up through the high school. And the kids just loved her. She brought so much joy. And Daxton's the same way. I hired him, as you said in the intro, to be an assistant coach at Principia School with me for baseball. And every time I'm around him, every time the players are around him, he has an electricity to him he's just dynamic, and he brings joy to every single thing he does. And it's just a blast being around Special Olympics athletes.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. And I've been around him since 1994. I got first involved with it. And what I found is really they have something that I want more of. I take some things too seriously, and sometimes it's straight ahead and only got those blinders on. And whenever I get around the athletes, was with Keith yesterday, my unified golf partner, I mean, they take life as it comes. And I got interviewed one time by a local broadcaster here in Jefferson City. And I told him this story. I said, I really believe they were put on this earth to show us how to live. It's not the other way around where we're helping them. It's really the reverse. They are helping us see through a different lens that sometimes we get too blinded on, I truly believe.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's a blessing, and that's when people volunteer. I'm going to do a plug for Special Olympics for people to volunteer at their local Special Olympics branches. You think going in that it's about helping them. It's not. You're going to receive so many more, 100 times the blessings will come back to you for giving, for volunteering and taking the time to care about a Special Olympics athlete or mentor them. And it's awesome.
And since we're early in 2021, if you're looking for something and you don't have that Special Olympics is an international organization because we have 60 different countries that listen to our podcast, all 50 states. So you can get involved. If Special Olympics is not your thing, I'm okay with that, and Pete is too, but find what it is in nonprofit, because you will find that out. The more you give of yourself, you get so much in return. And instead of saying, I'm too busy, take that action to decide that. I think Pete and I would both tell you that will help you move forward, because you'll see things differently than what you're seeing it yourself. Get out of yourself, and how can you support others? And with coming out of this pandemic, that's one of the things we can do, is we can really help others and move forward and move our lives forward in that process. Pete, I'm kind of curious, because here you told us you were in the bottom 25% of that class in high school. And now you said you had your master's, I think I heard, and now you're getting your doctorate. What made you decide to go back to get that degree?
So I actually have 2 master's degrees, one in leadership and one in sport management. And going back, when I finished my second master's, my wife said, you should just go on and continue your doctorate. You're going to get it eventually. I said, no, I'm never going to, me and being a doctor doesn't go together. And I just thought more about it. And this program at University of Missouri, St. Louis has a wonderful character education program. Dr. Marvin Berkowitz is a guru. He's been doing this for 50 years. And I was so fortunate to get into his last cohort. It's a 3-year cohort for an EDD degree and doctoral degree. And so he's my advisor. I'm being mentored by him. And it just is remarkable. And I know that what I'm learning, I'm going to be able to take it and share it with our athletes at Principia School, and hopefully even more broadly than that. But the topic of character is something I can't get enough. I'm always researching it. And with my nonprofit, I run 8-week or 12-week character camps where I invite students in from all backgrounds, and we meet up at a school, we talk character, we do a little sports interaction, and we eat together, we have dinner together. And it's just neat to see how these young people bond. And these are 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, and they're giving 2 hours of their Saturday, when a lot of times kids are playing video games or doing something that's not very productive. They're talking about character, and they're doing exactly that. They're surrounding themselves by people of high character and raising the bar for themselves.
Well, I can't wait to see. You're already doing great things, but this is just going to kind of take it to a different level and see, because you and I were talking off camera before and off the audio of really character. It comes in with those values and how we make that impact on it. And you're doing it through the power of sport, which we believe is so important, because there's life lessons learned from sport each and every day. So I can't wait to see how you kind of take that and mold that and continue that on. And I'll keep watching, don't worry, and we'll stay in touch as that goes. But let's talk a little bit about your book, because you wrote the book Character Loves Company, and I definitely would recommend people pick that up. But I'm kind of curious, take one of the character traits or one of the characters' values that you have in that book, and why do you think it's most important to you, and which one would it be?
So that is a really good question. So I cover 25 character values in the book in a progressive 5-step process. So there's around 4 or 5 character values per level. And, I wrote it in 2017, and I think it's a really impactful book. I teach a graduate level class at the University of Florida in coaching character, and that's the textbook for that class, which I'm very proud of. And, the term that I talk about in my character camps now was not even in the book. So it goes to show you how we continue to learn, we continue to progress. And the value that I left out, I realized, is kindness. Now, we talk about other values that relate to kindness, but the first value is gratitude, giving gratitude to your parents, your providers, that nature. Then the 25th value is legacy, thinking about how can you impact other people and the information that you've learned, share that with others. But in the middle, I've added now, when I do my character camps, kindness. And it's the most impactful to have young men who are 7th through 9th graders, and they're used to being tough and all that, and just talking about how important kindness is. We start off by showing a little clip or a couple clips from the movie Wonder. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's absolutely wonderful book about true kindness and classmates treating each other with respect. And it's just, some of the kids really, share boldly. And it's that brotherly love, that sisterly love, and that kindness is probably the favorite value that I have to emphasize, especially with that age, with that middle school age, because not a lot of people talk about that at that age.
Wow, I love that. And kind of interesting that, as you look back, you learn from the character traits that you put in, what needs to be there. I think the other thing, Pete, I want to really kind of stress on is, as parents, sometimes we hear, okay, he's got a book out, Character Loves Company. He's talking about sports. We've talked about, middle schoolers, the high schoolers. But the thing is, character falls within all of us. So as parents, what do you believe with the book can they really take from it to really help them? Put you on the spot here.
Yeah, no, I think that's really my target audience is parents, because a lot of times parents are putting so much pressure on these young athletes. I'll call them. I like to call them students before athletes. Their academics come before their athletics, and make sure we're prioritizing that correctly. But a lot of times parents are putting so much pressure on these kids that they're burning out. They're just doing one sport. I'm a big believer in multiple sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing, you might have your favorite and you might work a little bit harder at that, but there's a lot of value. You might be the best player in baseball, but you go and play basketball, you might be a role player. Well, guess what? That's life. When I'm with my kids and something goes wrong, my kids want mom. I do my best to play the supportive role and be the best dad I can be. But throughout life, we're going to have roles where we're in the spotlight, taking charge and leading. And then there's times when we have to learn how to follow and play that role, be that role player. And so I think with parents, they ask me all the time, what is, because when they're driving home, there's a study out there and it said, what's the least favorite memory that people have thinking back on their high school or college athletic career? What's their favorite memory? Well, their favorite memory is just the team, being part of something bigger than yourself. Their least favorite memory a lot of times is that car ride home with dad and mom. Mm-hmm. So then I share that with parents and they say, well, what can we tell them? Because I want to give them constructive feedback. I say, just when they get in the car, just say, I loved watching you play. I loved watching you play, and then zip it up. And then they might say, well, what'd you like, mom? Or what did I do well? Or, but we're just, a lot of times as parents, we're bombarding our kids and putting that extra pressure. It's hard enough. They're doing the best they can. Nobody's going out there trying to miss the last shot or strike out with the bases loaded, but just being supportive, because we want our kids to play sports because there's so many great values that they're learning, transferable skills to the rest of their life. But we want to be supportive as parents.
Pete, it's so interesting because I didn't do that early in my son's career, but I picked that up somewhere along the line, and I have no clue where to trace it back to. But someone told me, because of course I was helped in his baseball coach when he was in T-ball. Once he got old enough, he was past my level in them early years. But then someone told me that, what could you do? And I picked that up of just, I enjoy watching you play. And I'll never forget the impact that's made on my son. And there was a point that in 8th grade, he didn't know if he was going to go out for football his freshman year. And we stopped, and my wife and I had a discussion, said, you really need to talk to him because football was my love of sport. And he knew that. And I helped through the football program. But we had a conversation, and over lunch, as he was finishing his 8th grade year, and I just told him, I said, son, it's up to you if you decide to play football or not. The only thing I would do, I would give it time now, because you just finished the season. Instead of deciding today or this next week, give it a couple months, and then you'd make the determination before you make that decision. But the impact that you make on those children and your own children, instead of putting the pressure on them, taking the pressure off and let them make that decision. He ended up, did that, and he's playing some college football.
Wow, that's
at this point. And I even told him awesome. When he finished up high school, I said, again, you need to decide. He wasn't going to play college football. And then late April, early May, he decided he wanted to give it a chance, and his coach was telling him, oh, you can get some scholarships. He wasn't the greatest player, but did not put the pressure on him. Instead, you change that. Let them make that decision. Yes, you should help choose certain things for him, but pressuring him in sports, Pete and I would both tell you that's the wrong way.
That's such a great story with your son, Gary, and I appreciate you sharing that because it's so true. It really resonates, and it's that, I think you said it was when he was in 8th grade going into high school, yeah. And that's that age where my dad told me, I played professional baseball, come from a family of 10 professional baseball players. My dad said in 8th grade, I wanted to quit baseball, and he gave me the same advice that you did, where he encouraged me to just stick with it, go to a different sport, go to basketball now, and then your body will mature and you'll rekindle that love for it. And I ended up having a professional baseball career. I would have been so upset with myself had I have quit when I was 13 years old. So we want our kids to continue to play sports because of the joy of sport, because of the sportsmanship, because of being a good teammate, all those character values. And in our society today, there's too much stress and emphasis on winning at all costs. And it should never be win at all costs. In my book, I talk about winning the right way. We want to win the right way. Of course, I want to win as much as anybody, but we're always going to do it the right way.
Yeah. What great life lessons. And for parents out there, if you're always thinking, because I know some parents think, well, this is the way they can get a scholarship. The challenge that becomes with that is what you're talking about with multiple sports. I know there's a study out there. I can't cite exactly off the top of my head where it was, but I've seen it where children that play more than one sport are more likely to get a scholarship than students that only do one sport all year round. So the numbers show out that if you're truly working at first, it's got to be their love to do it. But the second one is then tell them to branch out. And like you said, maybe they're more of the role player in the second sport. Maybe they're not on the starting lineup in the second sport, but they're still getting life lessons.
Absolutely. And getting different perspectives from different coaches. Kids are playing the same sport 365 days a year, and they're getting burnt out, and they're only hearing one voice. I'd rather have my children learn from 3 different great coaches instead of just one.
Yeah. Excellent advice. Well, we could probably talk about that all day, but we'll move on. But one last question, because we talked a little bit about this with your doctoral dissertation, and I'm just really with the character education and citizenship. Share with us, how are you kind of molding this to become that dissertation that you have to do to get that doctorate?
So yes, so I'm working on that right now. My really bringing all my big ideas down that narrow funnel for my dissertation topic. And it's really looking at peer-to-peer cross-age mentoring. I feel like we have in schools, we have high school student athletes or just students in general who have so much to give to elementary kids or give to middle school kids or college. You think about college student athletes and a lot of young people look up to them. We don't see enough of this buddy system or this student to student mentoring. I think a lot of times we think that as adults, we have to do it all. We have all the answers. We have to do it ourselves. Well, you know what? When I do youth camps for baseball, I always have my baseball players come out and help. And these baseball players, they're high school kids. They know a little bit about baseball, but they're phenomenal. These little kids would much rather learn from, elementary kids would much rather learn from my high school kids than hear me talk. And so we need to utilize, it's going to empower our high school and college students to mentor these younger generations. So that's really what I'm looking at, is how we can do a better job of utilizing and empowering our high school and college and middle school student athletes to mentor the younger generation.
Excellent. I can't wait till you finish that up and be able to put some of it in practice. There are going to be some great life lessons to learn there. And I really appreciate you sharing that, Pete. I think we could easily have a conversation for another 30 minutes, but I kind of need to move to the recharge round. But before we go there, share with them how they can, number one, share your website, because if they want to check out the nonprofit, they can do there. And also, if they want to get a copy of your book, what's the best way to pick a copy of that up?
Thank you. Thanks for giving me a moment here. So my website is www.characterlovescompany.org. And it's a pretty fleshed out website. We're doing a lot of neat stuff. And then the book, you can find the book on Amazon. If you just go into Amazon and you plug in Character Loves Company, it'll pop right up. And it's, I don't know, I think it's $15 on Amazon. And I think it's a book that it's really a guidebook. So it's something that I think you can keep with you if you're a coach or a parent, that you can refer back to regularly just to get insights. And at the end of each chapter, I give different activities or drills that they can do to enhance character and make character a priority.
Excellent. Appreciate you sharing that. And again, if you're exercising or driving right now, we don't want you writing. Don't worry. All of it is in show notes at chargepodcast.com. So the nice thing is we've got it easily there. We'll have the easy Amazon link that you can go straight to get the book. So please check it out. Pete's, as I said, you pour your life and kind of everything into that first book, and you're thinking, how will I ever get this done? And when you do, there's some great life lessons in it. And I think you'll really see that from his book. Pete, I'm going to ask you 6 questions that I ask every guest. This is what I call the recharge round. So if you thought those questions were tough, now becomes the really tough part. So, but I know now we never did ask, what was your position in baseball? I didn't see that on your site.
So I was a first baseman. And if I can take a few seconds here, I was a first baseman in professional baseball, and I played during the steroid era. And I'm very proud that, I stayed clean, and I don't think I'd be able to work with youth and talk about character had I have cheated to reach my goals. And so I was a first baseman, which is a power position. And if you could see me, I'm not 250 pounds of rock solid muscle. People would say I'm kind of skinny, but so I just, sticking to what I knew was right and sticking to the character that I knew I was.
Well, these recharge questions may be like that fastball you've seen from your toughest competitor that you had to go up against. And I know you had multiple ones, so I won't make you name them, but that these questions may be like that. So now I got him worried now. See, I can tell. First off, share with us how you believe your mindset affects your daily living.
Gratitude. Getting up with a grateful heart every morning, you're ready to give to other people.
Yeah, I love that. Gratitude. It's kind of interesting because I have a little app that I listen to, and they're 2-3 minute segments. And today's session is on gratitude. So it's just kind of amazing how that comes up. What do you do daily to bring energy in your life? And both of us are kind of hard chargers and love that competitive spirit. But let's put it in this area. The day that it's where that energy level is a little low, what do you do then?
I really try to surround myself with youth. I try to surround myself with high character people, but I love being around children. I just think that children are so pure, innately pure. And it inspires me every time I get an opportunity to be around young people.
Okay. What's the number one connection or relationship that's made the biggest impact in your life?
My wife. So you said in the beginning, I met my wife in high school sweethearts, and she's just amazing. And she's an amazing mom, amazing wife. She's a teacher at the school, at Principia School. She teaches French. She also has a background. She teaches Spanish, but she has a background in French as well. She's amazing. She's just so uplifting and inspiring every day.
Excellent. I was curious if he was going to say that, because when it was in the bio, I was kind of like, okay, we're going to test him on this one here. But you passed. What advice has influenced you the most in your life?
I would say, it's a good question. I have so many strong mentors in my life that I refer to, that I reach out to. Bill Schumard from the Special Olympics Southern California, he told me one time early on when we were getting to know each other, said, you have to do well before you can do good. Ooh. And I like that. And it made me think, with my nonprofit, I want to help people. I want to give to people, but I also got to take care of my own family and my own job before I can do so.
That is, folks, right there. You have to do well before you can do good. Think about that. How can that impact what you're doing today, each and every day? Now, I know, because if you're a writer of books, I know you're a reader of books. So now the hard part is recommend one book and share why you love it.
Okay. I'm actually reading a book right now, and I'm trying to think of the title of it. It's called An Ethic of Excellence. And the author is a longtime teacher. He may be retired now, named Ron Berger. And it's Building Excellent Schools, An Ethic of Excellence. And it's remarkable. It's a short book. It's only 150 pages, but just so many pearls of wisdom in there. And it actually was turned on to it through my dissertation, my doctoral program here. It's just a terrific read.
Now there you can tell a true reader, because if, of course, he goes back to his book that he's reading right now, or one of his last books, because that happens quite a bit. Because when you read a lot of books, it's like the next best one is the next favorite that's theirs.
You're absolutely right.
I appreciate that, Pete. Now, last question, and I think you said this is character number 25 in the book. In one sentence, what legacy do you want to leave the world?
Wow. That's a great one. I would say caring about other people, putting others' needs, recognizing other people in need, and capitalizing on an opportunity to make an impact.
Well, Pete, you are living up to that legacy already, because by you saying yes to the Charge podcast, there's someone that needed to hear our message that we were talking about. Maybe someone that's been a coach. Maybe they're getting ready to coach their baseball season that's coming up. And maybe they were that yeller. Not that I know that person, but I know him well because I was a little bit of that yeller early in my career. And instead, what can you do to build those athletes up? Not just your own children, but the other children that you're impacting. And I think that's the thing that they're going to hear today. And I don't know who that person is, but one of our Chargers needed to hear that. I just can't thank you enough for being on the Charge podcast.
Gary, I'm honored, as I said, and thank you. The work that you're doing here with the Charge podcast is so impactful, and I'm just so grateful to be part of it.
Well, thank you again. And Chargers, if you're not charged up now, boy, you better take your pulse, because we're going to have to hook something up to you to get you going, because Pete and I had a great discussion. But the only thing is, there was a lot of information shared. Now the key is just decide to take one action. If you need to look at show notes, check out his book at Character Loves Company. That's all in show notes, but also they will have show notes in there of what we've discussed. And then the key is what is the action that will help us move forward today? We're early in 2021. If we want to achieve our goals, it's about taking action on them. And remember, that's why we call it the Charge Podcast. Create habits around real goals every day. Come back next week. Please like and share this. If you know a coach that needs to hear this message, this would be a good one to forward to them, or another parent. Have that conversation with them so you make an impact with your students and with the athletes that you're around each and every day. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you back here next week. Make it a great day.
This podcast is ended, but your life doesn't just stop. To continue your inspiring journey, head over to chargepodcast.com and access all the tools and resources mentioned on today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing with somebody who may also benefit from the advice provided. That's chargepodcast.com. Until next time, charge in business and life.